Welcome to episode 7 of Bizarre Connections, the channel that gives new meaning to the phrase vacuous non-entity. Last time we ended up playing a game of dominoes for a reason I can't quite remember, so that's where we'll pick up this time. Connection 43, Giordano Bruno. Giordano Bruno was an Italian philosopher, former Dominican friar, and bold early advocate of an infinite universe filled with countless worlds. Bruno moved constantly because he was repeatedly investigated for heresy given his outspoken ideas. He relied on finding new protectors, universities, or royal courts willing to tolerate his unorthodox views. He was a pantheist who believed that the earth moved around the sun and that the universe was endless. He was an all-round radical free thinker who insisted that knowledge advanced by breaking accepted boundaries and challenging authorities, not by deference to tradition. At various times he lived in London, Paris, Frankfurt, Geneva, Naples, and Venice. His refusal to recant his beliefs ultimately led to his trial for heresy in Rome and his subsequent execution, later making him a symbol of intellectual freedom. Bruno connects to dominoes via the origin of the word domino, which comes from the Latin dominus, meaning lord or master. In medieval Venice, a black hooded cloak with a white lining, known as a domino, was worn by monks, and it was this black and white colouring that later inspired the name of the gaming pieces. As Bruno was, for a time, a monk who lived in Venice, he would likely have worn a domino. From heretical monks, we begin to furiously rub our lamp. Connection 44, Aladdin. Aladdin is the story of a street-smart lad who finds a lamp, gives it a quick polish, and suddenly has a cosmic wish-making machine at his disposal. The story was an 18th century French addition to the traditional Arabic tale 1001 Nights. The connection between Giordano Bruno and Aladdin is via 1960s London, the birthplace of former world heavyweight boxing champion and namesake Frank Bruno. Loved by the British public for his never-say-die attitude, Bruno became a massive celebrity after his boxing career ended. In Britain, there are many traditions that make no sense to outsiders, one of the foremost being the Christmas pantomime. The assembled cast of celebrities proceed to shout, sing, and double entendre their way through a dubious fairy tale. The audience yells, "He's behind you," every 5 minutes, villains are booed like it's a national duty, and by the end everyone's covered in glitter, custard, or both. It's chaotic, it's loud, and somehow it's considered family entertainment. Bruno, Frank not Giordano, regularly appeared in pantomime for years, with his most famous and repeated role being Aladdin. From a genie granting wishes, we move to a wizard casting spells. Connection 45, Harry Potter. Harry Potter. The boy who spent his adolescence fighting a noseless villain and saving the world instead of studying for his finals. Famous for surviving a killing curse, yet somehow still can't fix his own eyesight. Now a middle-aged dad wondering why on earth he named his son Albus Severus. Aladdin connects to Harry Potter via a plot device. The 1940 film The Thief of Baghdad is widely considered the primary inspiration for Disney's Aladdin. It features a thief hero, a generic sultan city, a villainous vizier named Jafar, and a sidekick named Abu. A crucial element in the film was borrowed by J.K. Rowling when she wrote Harry Potter because they both contain, as a major plot device, an invisibility cloak. From cloaks that render the wearer invisible, we say, and now for something completely different. Connection 46, Monty Python. I spent most of my formative teenage years repeating these in rotation. As I repeat them now, I make no apology. Remarkable bird, the Norwegian blue, isn't it, eh? Beautiful plumage. I fought in your general direction. Your mother was a hamster and your father smelt of elderberries.
Well, there's egg, spam, egg, sausage, bacon and spam, egg and spam and sausage, egg, spam, spam, bacon and spam.
We are the knights who say, "Nee."
He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy.
I thank you. I'm currently taking bookings for Christmas. Harry Potter connects to Monty Python via the use of dubious Latin. In Life of Brian, Brian attempts to write the anti-Roman slogan, Romans go home, in Latin on a wall. But he writes, Romanus aiunt domus. Apologies for my pronunciation. A Roman centurion, more concerned with poor grammar than the rebellious act of vandalism, forces Brian to conjugate the imperative verb and use the correct case, ultimately arriving at the more accurate Romani ite domen. Dubious Latin is used regularly in Harry Potter to make the fantastical world feel more coherent and authoritative, with spells such as Expelliarmus, Expecto Patronum, and indeed the Hogwarts motto, the silly yet grammatically correct Draco dormiens nuncam titillandus, never tickle a sleeping dragon. Well, you wouldn't, would you? From a dead language, we point to the sky. Connection 47, The Shard. The Shard is London's gigantic, slightly terrifying glass pencil. Designed by Italian architect Renzo Piano and finished in 2012, it exists primarily to give tourists an expensive way to confirm that the sky is, in fact, grey, and proves once and for all that if you build something tall enough, some idiot will pay £100 for a gin and tonic at the top of it. The Shard connects to Monty Python in a spectacularly obscure fashion. Skyscrapers with glass exteriors such as the Shard are only made possible because of the invention over a 7-year period of float glass by the St Helens firm Pilkington's Glass. Perfectly flat float glass revolutionised the industry and turned Pilkington's into one of the UK's first true multinational companies in the 1960s. Possibly for this reason, the young Michael Palin of Monty Python fame, when speaking to his school careers advisor, was given very specific career advice indeed. He was told bluntly to get a job with Pilkington's Glass. Thankfully, Palin ignored him. From a successful modern skyscraper to a less successful old one. Connection 48, The Leaning Tower of Pisa. The Leaning Tower of Pisa is essentially a medieval architectural mistake that decided to embrace its flaws and become an international icon. Construction began in 1173, but by the third story, the builders realised that the soft subsoil meant their beautiful white tower was already leaning to the right more than Nigel Farage. Despite centuries of effort to fix the lean, it remains defiant. Its main job now is serving as the world's largest, most expensive prop for millions of tourists attempting to take the same mandatory "I'm holding it up" photograph every year. The Shard connects to the Leaning Tower of Pisa via the building it replaced. The Shard replaced an existing tall building called the Southwark Tower. This required one of the biggest demolitions in UK history. However, the biggest concrete building demolition globally at the time was that of the Ocean Tower on South Padre Island in Texas. Built in 2006, the building was demolished just 3 years later because of catastrophic structural failure due to inadequate foundation design, which made the building unsafe and irreparable. The inadequate foundations meant that the skyscraper sank unevenly into the sandy, compressible clay by about 16 inches. For obvious reasons, the locals named the building the Leaning Tower of South Padre, after its infamous Italian predecessor, the Leaning Tower of Pisa. From leaning buildings to bouncing animals. Connection 49, Kangaroos. The kangaroo is a creature built entirely around the principle of maximum momentum, relying on 2 enormous legs and a massive muscular tail, essentially its 5th limb. It is the only animal that moves at speed by using its huge, powerful legs continuously to bounce graciously along. Its tail also acts as a kickstand. Ouch. So if you see one standing still and flexing, run, because it's likely to be asking you for a kickboxing match. And there's only one winner in that fight, believe me. Kangaroos connect to the Leaning Tower of Pisa circuitously. The Leaning Tower of Pisa took 200 years to build. Another building which massively overran its build schedule was the Sydney Opera House. Scheduled to take 4 years to build, it actually took 14. However, like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, the Sydney Opera House has become a globally iconic building. As well as being a stunning building, the Sydney Opera House has also become an iconic symbol for an entire nation, Australia. Another iconic symbol of Australia is the kangaroo. So that's it for episode 7, in a journey you were tricked into joining and are now wondering if you might have been kidnapped without you actually knowing it. If you can spare a few seconds, please take time to like and subscribe, as it really helps with the YouTube algorithm. Episode 8 sees me connect kangaroos with this lot, as I discuss links 50 to 56 in the never-ending hallucinogenic trip that is Bizarre Connections. Can you spot who or what kangaroos connect directly to? Join me next time to find out if you were right. Me again. One last thing. Why not join me at the beginning for link 1, Steve Jobs, on my endless chain of bizarre connections? Go on. You know you want to. Or why not view the entire playlist containing all the episodes? Also, if you could comment and subscribe, I would be eternally grateful.